What's going on, everybody? Zach Walker here, Bearded Branded Marketing. We are live for Corona Cast, as we're calling it. I think this is day 6. I missed you guys yesterday, but as Molly said, due to popular demand, you were able to get me off the show for an afternoon. But I am back, and today I am back with a vengeance. I have with me a good friend, Tom Rigsby, who is a local genius and small business coach and advisor, and a man with great wisdom that has been around for a while here, helping small businesses all over North Alabama and all over the place. He has been speaking truth to the coronavirus outbreak, as it were, for the last couple of weeks, and we wanted to get on here together and talk a little bit about pivoting, about small business and in times like these, you know, when nothing is what it seems to be, what it looks like for a small business to take the restaurants, for example. We can't have any gatherings of more than 10. What are we going to do? We're going to go curbside. We're going to go fill in the blank. And so, Tom, welcome aboard, and it's good to have you, man.
Hey, buddy, appreciate it. Just happy to still be here and be upright and walking around. So that's an accomplishment.
No, that's exactly right. So tell us a little bit about yourself. This is the first time that you and you called in the other day, and that was really cool because I put you on the spot and was like, hey, man, why don't you call in? And you did. It was fantastic information. But tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of your background, and then we'll dive into the topic.
Sure. Well, as I like to say, I was born here, raised here, left twice, came back twice, in and around the Huntsville area. When I was in high school, the first thing I wanted to do was get out of here. And so I did. Went, traveled, saw the world, I've lived or worked on 4 different continents now with companies from Fortune 50s to little mom and pops. And I've really been fortunate in that I've been able to have, I think now 15 businesses of my own that I've started from scratch. And, you know, as businesses go, some of those were great successes. Some of them just kind of ran their course. A couple of them are still smoldering holes in the ground. But along the way with successes and the failures, I figured out a couple of things that are consistent across all of them. And so back in 2007, I started working to help business owners kind of use business as a tool to build the life and lifestyle that they really want. And that's what I've been working at until last year. And in last year, I kind of saw that there was this expanded need. As businesses grow and mature through the life cycle of a business, they have needs beyond just advice. They need HR and accounting and legal and sales and marketing. So we've been working to build a team and spread that team across the Southeast where it's warm most of the time, and then kind of go from there.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. And very, much like you, my background, very entrepreneurial, which means, wrought with failure and learning how to rebound, recoup, respond in times of great change. I mean, everything about a market is quite literally, it's a constant change, right? It's a constant shift. And the ones that make it learn how to pivot. I mean, when I started my last company, which was the Revolved Real Estate Company that Tim Knox now runs, we came in disruptive. We were always pivoting around the market's response to our different offering. We were constantly trying to change to provide a different value-added service to the consumer that maybe wasn't so, look, there's a million realtors, right? So how do you set yourself apart? Well, in this time of crisis, there's no difference really. I mean, when you think about as an entrepreneur starting a business, these are things that, I mean, I live for this. I love, I mean, not to downplay the crisis, but I live for the creativity of being an entrepreneur. It's one of my favorite parts about doing what I do for a living. And so, when we spoke the other day, we had talked about maybe wanting to get together and just talk about pivoting. And I know we're live in the small business group that you created for those that are dealing with this crisis. And so hopefully my goal is always to add value. You and I can discuss some strategies maybe. And hopefully if you have some questions, you guys could pop in some questions and we'll throw them up here on the screen and we'll maybe answer those questions directly or whatever. But let's talk about some specific strategies maybe that will allow these small businesses to maybe get something today that maybe they hadn't thought of before, and just really add value to what they're doing. So as far as, I can speak to the construction, the real estate, we're in the brand building industry, which is, I know it's weird, but we have a lot of things under the Cotton Row brand that we monetize, from retail all the way into custom home building, right? And so it's a very much like a Magnolia. And I say that with great respect for what they've done in Waco. I mean, we're certainly not even on their in their playing field yet, but that's where we hope to be. And so that's really my core competency. I can speak to those businesses very well. But let's talk about, I mean, I think the hardest hit right now, it's looking like, are the restaurant business. I mean, it's going to be hard.
Well, Zach, I think, and you kind of touched on it there in describing what your business is. I think the pivot that we need to really be thinking about is a pivot away from this singular way of doing things is the way that I do things, and turn more toward a view of how can I create value for the customer.
That's right.
Now, that value, I might be great at painting houses, but right now people don't need their houses painted, right? I mean, they're worried about other things. So what can I do with a bunch of ladders and a bunch of brushes and a bunch of, hey, I've cleaned siding before I painted that thing. Maybe I can clean houses. Maybe I can help people. I mean, just find a way to create value, to solve problems for your clients. I tell people all the time, our job is to solve problems for other people. And if you think about your job that way, instead of I'm a house painter, I'm a retail cashier, I'm a fill in the blank, it's going to be much easier for you to figure out how to create value in someone's life.
No, that's exactly right. And I was, the gentleman that was on the phone with me that day that you called in, Joe Bullock. It wasn't a day into the crisis that he posted very quickly. He's a videographer and a photographer, and very quickly it was, hey, if you need help live streaming and connecting with your customers, I can help you set up you can hire me, and I can provide my service for you by helping you understand how to do what I do, maybe in your home, or you could utilize the studio. And we've offered the same thing here as well, but it's just that ability to like you said, everything's not a nail, and you're not always holding a hammer. Unfortunately, that's just not how small business works. So, I mean, from a market perspective, I'd be curious to hear your opinion. This and this isn't a political question. I don't want to go politics, but certainly from the economic perspective, the stimulus package and the approval, is it going to approve? Is it not going to approve? I mean, there are small businesses that are going to die. I think we can say that without hesitation. And as a fact, like, there are going to be businesses that are no longer in business when this is over, that were when this started. And so from an economic perspective, let's talk cash flow. Let's talk about, let's talk two situations. One, we get the stimulus package. Everybody can go out there and get their. What if that doesn't happen? Because right now it's pretty ugly up there on the hill, and who knows what's going to happen. So let's talk cash flow methods, cash flow conservation, if you will, during a crisis, because I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that whole concept.
Sure. So I think there are two halves to this crisis for a business owner. The first half is to survive, right? We have to get to the other side in order to restart our business. And so cash is king in this time. On the podcast this morning, I talked about how I'm very much a top line guy. We've got to add top line revenue, got to add. You can't save your way to $1 million, except now, right? Well, you're still not going to save your way to $1 million, but you can save your way to survival, which will allow you to restart on the other side. And then the second half of that, of course, is when we restart. How do we do that? And how do we do that in a way that's not taking advantage of the market and the circumstance? In terms of the stimulus, I think it's really important what every economy needs. Commerce is the exchange of goods for value, right? I mean, that's the textbook definition. We need people to spend money, right? And so from a stimulus perspective, you can give a bunch of money to the banks, the big companies, which some of that's important. We need the Amazons, the Walmarts to be there when we restart so that they can still employ people. But just in terms of making cash available to promote that commerce and that exchange of goods for dollars, man, let's put some dollars in people's hands and let them go spend it where they want. Vote with their pocketbook, if it were. And now we've got 320 some million people out there stimulating the economy instead of a smaller group. So I think there is a balanced approach. There's not an either or, it's an and kind of answer. But I can say that if we don't do something and this thing continues, I don't know, we'll go for another month from here. If we're still talking this way a month from now, consumers are going to slip back into a survival mode.
That's exactly right.
And they're going to start hoarding and not spending. And even when we come out on the other side, they're still going to be gun shy, just like they were in 2009. Now, this is a different set of circumstances in 2009. This is much more closely related to 9/11 than it is 2008, 2009. But at the end of the day, we need people to spend money. And that's why, from a Huntsville and Madison perspective, when you hear these daily briefings, they're like, take out Tuesday and Thursday. And in fact, do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if you can, because that's the only way some of these small businesses are going to survive. Now, the final piece that I'll put in here is the things like the SBA emergency loans. Those are super important. Those are, kind of the first step here was the Families First Act from Congress that kind of protected employees, their pay, their sick leave, their benefits. But then that left a lot of employers wondering, well, how am I going to pay for that? Well, that's where the SBA funds come in a pinch. They're not meant to grow your business, to make you rich. They're just there to fill a gap and to fill a need. And now we're seeing other community organizations, local and community banks, some non-traditional lending agencies coming forward with some stopgap products also to help us fill that gap, to get past the hump so that we're on the other side and ready to restart.
Well, that's the key. Restart. I love the two things you said there that just hit home. One, I've been calling this a ground zero, CoronaCast day one, as we call it over here. I lived in Washington D.C. The day that happened, and it was an experience for everybody across the country, but certainly the proximity being 20 miles from the Pentagon, 30 miles from the Pentagon, it kind of changed the way that thing felt. And ground zero to me means something. It's a symbol of something so much bigger. I mean, the towers that fell and but it's about the disaster. It's about the way that the country stopped and rallied and came together. And I've been calling this a ground zero from day one, because that's how it feels. It's not 2008. I love that, because it's not the same. 2008 was a disaster because people were propped up in a way to be greedy and make more money than they should, and really, quite frankly, break the law over and over and over again. We won't go there, but this is so much different than that. And the second part is the restarting thing that you said. I mean, it's so key. Like you talk about the small business owners and the consumers. Consumers going into survival mode is a terrible thing because their pocketbook is so tight in their hand, they're not going to turn loose anything. So it's a matter of going to survival mode for the small business owner and keeping the consumer in a. It doesn't have to be normal. Look, I'm not buying at the rate that normally I would buy because I've got no idea what's going to happen with the economy, but I am eating out as often as is reasonably and safely possible to support small businesses. And if I need to buy something and I can get it anywhere but Walmart, I'm certainly going to try to do so and support the vendors that are still open on the square or wherever it is. And I mean, it's this SBA stuff and the stimulus package. And I will make this political statement because it's my show and I don't care. stop trying to put stuff in that bill or in that act that has absolutely nothing to do with this disaster. Hey Congress, hey representatives, you work for us. Like passing a new green deal, and both sides of the aisle need to put all of that aside, and what needs to happen is let's address our economy because of what's happened from this pandemic and leave politics alone. And I don't all this corporate bailouts and the buyback of stock. I don't think you should be able to buy your stock back, but that's not even really worth arguing for me right now, because right now I'm worried about if you are a CEO worried about a corporate buyback of stock, like you and I are in two very different worlds. And I don't even know how you live. I don't know how, like I'm that's not me, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm talking about everyday average Joe and Jane, that $3,000 is the difference in, I mean, it's a difference in making it and not making it. I mean, look, we talked to the auto lender the other day. They are deferring truck payments and car payments for 2 and 3 months. Mortgage payments are being deferred. Now, they're still going to be accruing interest, right? But you're not going to have to pay them this month. Landlords are being super, and that's something I'm hesitant to go too far into, because one, as a landlord, right, we have some rental properties, like I still have a mortgage to pay, but I can go ahead and defer mine as well to help out people that are renting from me, right? And so it's about everybody come together. That's really what it is. And on 9/11, we saw a country. I mean, I'll never forget the image of Sammy Sosa when he hit that home run and he takes off with that flag. And it's still a really emotional thing, because it was so real. Like that day changed the country forever. We're dealing with something that big here if we're not careful. And it's not the sickness, it's not the virus, it's the impact of what's happening around it that's going to change things. And so, yeah, I mean, conserving cash flow is key from a sales perspective. What are some of the best things? I mean, we've all seen them out there in the marketplace, these people that are pivoting brilliantly. I saw Yellowhammer yesterday. They announced they were shifting the brewery to produce hand sanitizer that they could then sell to at a fair rate, by the way, not gouging. Those of you that have garages and storage units full of hand sanitizer, shame on you. At a fair price to emergency agencies, hospitals, people that needed it, and eventually that'll probably make it to the consumer. And they're selling out of their backstock of all their, so they're not going to stop selling beer, but they're going to shift a production line to sell a product that's more necessary, one. And two, quite frankly, I'm sure there's not a lot of people running up there for a couple growlers of their favorite IPA right now. So what are some of your favorite shifts that you've seen in the marketplace thus far that kind of had you saying, wow, that's a good one?
Well, I love, first of all, let me say, I love when our existing infrastructure can shift to support an immediate need. Back in, I think it was 2005, when Katrina and Rita came through. I was living in Texas at the time. I was in the Texas Guard, and I saw something I had never seen before, which was pallets and pallets and pallets of Anheuser-Busch cans with drinking water in it. And they had just taken their whole packaging and delivery infrastructure and replaced the beer with water. And, I mean, aluminum cans into an area like that to deliver water, I mean, it's a great idea. In terms of what's happening now, I think your point about restaurants being hit hard, that's spot on. And look, I'm even going to say a lot of these restaurants that are franchises are owned by a small business owner here in the community. Right.
My wife and I had that discussion the other night. She was like, well, maybe not a chain. I'm like, no. A chain is the company with the name on the sign. Somebody just like me and you paid a big franchise fee and started that business just like I started my own. It's important to remember that.
Right. But seeing restaurants do curbside service where, they're a traditional dining room, or putting together Corona packages or quarantine packages or things like that. And just doing outreach. And then I think, I kind of used the painter example a few minutes ago. Look at the infrastructure that you have and see how it can be put to use. And then in terms of sales, one of the things that we're doing with our services on our team is we are implementing some products specifically for the restart after this outbreak. But instead of saying, hey, we've got all the answers and for only $99.99 we'll give them to you, we're packaging it in a way that says, look, this is going to be a long-term recovery. We want to be with you through the duration of this recovery. Here's what this costs for us to help you, but right now just pay us what you can, right? And look, I'm a realist too. Am I going to lose money at some point? Yeah, probably, but that's not the point for me, right? I want to be able to help people, and as long as I'm creating value for people, I don't feel bad about being compensated for that. I understand that these business owners have cash flow problems right now. We have cash flow problems right now, but as you said, we're all in this together. Let me help you. You help me, and together we'll get through it. So I think just finding ways to be creative and not hold so doggedly rigid to, nope, this is what it has to be. I mean, I'm not compromising on my hourly equivalent, but I am compromising on the terms that I'll offer somebody in order to get that help.
Well, and something we do a lot. I mean, my partner and I, we're your prototypical wish we could be in the Shark Tank and kind of try to be in the smaller fish tank on a regular basis. We get pitched ideas and concepts all the time, and one of the things that I know that an opportunity will arise, and you and I spoke about it on the phone yesterday, and I'll take a bit of a flyer here and say that if you call me and Tom, his team and my team would probably be willing to come together and put something on paper for you that may include a piece of, let us really come alongside you and be a part of what you're doing, because quite frankly, I can't stand a lot of times, and I hesitate to say this because I also provide a service, and so it's like but at the same time, I don't like compensation packages for people that aren't tied to performance. And there's no better way for me to come alongside you as a marketing and branding coach than to say, as I grow your brand, I will get a piece of that growth. It doesn't mean that I own your company. It doesn't mean that I can vote you out into a hostile. That stuff's for the movies, folks. It means that you've got a bunch of people that, look, it took me 30 years to realize what I didn't know. And the minute I realized what I didn't know, it's not much, but there are some things. The minute I realized that, my business just jumped into the next stratosphere because I was able to surround myself with people that could fill those voids and gaps. And so I know that as we, and Tom and I hopefully will have some more time to talk off camera and throw together some more ideas on this. And probably, there's going to be some modules and some online learning that should be coming out from us in the very near future, and hopefully featuring Tom and his team at some point. But we want to help you through that regrowth process, even if you don't have money, if your idea is good enough, if you have something that's real, that has some sticking and staying power, because we have been, Tom said, how many was it? 15, you said?
15.
So 15 times he's walked through this process, and I would bet Tom's a great businessman, and I would bet that he's under 50% on absolute success ratio, because entrepreneurship is freaking hard. It is. And so let some guys come alongside of you. Between his team and my team, I can promise you there's a whole lot of failure and a whole lot of what I call tuition. We've already paid it. There's no point in you paying the same price. And so it'll be a fun time, I think, when we come back. I think the ferocity of the market is going to come back in a way that scares us a little bit. So as a small business owner, piece of advice: get ready. If you can buckle down and just make it through the storm, when the sun comes back out, it's going to come out in full force. It's going to be springtime. It's going to be warm. People, literally, we will have gone from winterish, kind of coldish, rainyish, to beautiful weather, 75, 80, 125 before long, but 75 or 80. Everybody's want to get outside. They've been locked up for a month. Like, it's going to come back strong. So if you've reached the point where you may not be able to pivot here, okay, buckle down. Lock it up and get ready for what happens when it comes back, because when it comes back, it's going to come back. I think it's going to come back strong. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do too. Mario Andretti has a great quote that I use quite often, and it says, "If you feel like you're in control, you're not going fast enough." Um, I think that I'm with you. I agree. I think that once the doors are flung open again, people will be so ready to get out that that there's a chance that we'll be overwhelmed. It but then we still run this risk if it takes too long. I think I saw a study out by Goldman Sachs earlier this week. I guess that'd be yesterday. Uh, but they said that they're projecting a negative 24% annualized GDP in the second quarter, but a plus 12% in the third quarter. So if you think about that, that means it's a 36-point swing in 3 months, right?
That's crazy.
It's crazy how much of a swing that is, and I think that their interpretation of that aligns with ours. That yes, the second quarter is going to be down because we're starting the quarter closed in, right? I mean, next Monday's the start of the second quarter. But as we begin to recover from the second quarter and ease into summer, holy moly, man, the streets are going to be on fire with people out there spending money. It's actually, they're projecting for it to go down 2 points heading into the holiday. So that's unheard of.
And for those of you that don't like numbers, I mean, these kind of numbers like this, gross domestic product, things are, it's a bit confusing. So just to clarify what he just said in very basic terms, they're expecting the second quarter to be bigger than the holiday season because in Christmas time, it's actually going to come down by 2%. So traditional holiday spending, which is typically the peak of the year, right, will be 2 percentage points lower than what's going to happen as soon as we come out of this outbreak. And so, Christmas in July, anyone? I'm just saying, it's gonna be real. It's gonna be crazy. And I know we only have a few minutes left before you've got to run. You've got a 3:00 deadline that we're up against. So I want to give you a few minutes. I know that you're real big on that SBA.gov, and so we've got this pulled up here. You talked about the funding programs. Is there anything else? I mean, because honestly, these are things that are new to me. I've always been a very private kind of. Like I didn't ever look into the government assistance programs. I've never really gone down that path. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are scared of it. They're like, well, I won't qualify, or I don't know what the process is. So talk about that for a minute, because I think there's a lot of real benefit here on this page.
Sure. So there absolutely is a qualification process. And as with any great government program, there's plenty of paperwork to go along with it. But I can guarantee that you won't be approved if you don't apply.
That's fact.
That's the only way to guarantee that you don't get approved. In the event that funding, that you don't qualify for that, there are other organizations now who are putting together packages. I had Neighborhood Concepts on the radio show this morning talking about an emergency line of credit up to $25,000 that they've put together. So just be aware that there are people in the community from the federal level all the way down to your neighborhood level that want to help. And if you are having trouble finding those resources, certainly me and my team can help you find that. I'm sure Zach and his team can help with that. As with any other disaster, unfortunately, we have to put this cautionary word on it. Watch out for people that are shysters, right? I mean, they're there. The blue tarp brigade that comes around after every windstorm promising to fix your roof. I mean, they give roofers a bad name. I know that, but you still have to just be cautious. Go with something reputable. These, the SBA programs are here to support us. It's one of the reasons why we pay our taxes, right? So that when we need it in times like this, they're there. So I don't be shy about asking for help. I'm with Zach. We've paid tuition. When I realized that I wasn't the smartest guy in the room and there was actually some other folks that knew what they were doing, man, did I feel a whole lot better, because huge weight was lifted off my shoulders because I could just say, hey, you know what? I don't know the answer to that. Let's figure it out. But do check out the SBA loans. That's at sba.gov/disaster. If there's anything I can do to help you, you can always hit my website. That address has been in the lower third, but it's real simple, tomrigsby.com. I spell my name funny, but even if you spell it right, it'll take you to the right place.
Connor will throw the lower thirds up. There they are. So it's right there on your screen. Tom, I appreciate you joining us, man. It's you and I need to make a plan to do this pretty regular. I think between our combined experiences, we have very different specialties or niches. Probably have enough experience in in all of it to kind of fight your way through it. But as far as what our core competencies are, I think we have a lot of complementary stuff there, and I think we could do a lot of good out there. Your heart seems to be very, very sincere in making a business out of helping people and doing so in a way that sure, money's great, money motivation. Everybody talks about that. I don't know that I buy into it as much as I used to, but fulfillment and just being able to, there's nothing better than watching an entrepreneur that you helped in the infancy of that idea succeed. I don't know that there's a better feeling outside of today's my anniversary. My wife and I have been married now for years, and so it's a great feeling to get married. She gave me a beautiful 4-year-old son. That's a great feeling. But watching a young entrepreneur or an entrepreneur of any age go through the process and figure it out with your help, there's just not a lot better than that. And so I think for my followers, obviously Tom is somebody who I would absolutely say, go talk to the man. He knows what he's talking about, and does truly want to help. And certainly we're in the same boat. So Tom, any last words for us here? Any great wisdom one-liners you want to throw at us?
Here's my advice. I didn't even realize I said this as much as I do, but I had a couple of people point it out to me. Kind of my kind of core go-to answer for a lot of the difficult challenges that we face is one word: simplify. Right? Simplify. If you have 100 things to do, don't worry about 100 things. What are the next 5 things? And when you get those 5 done, then you can go back and find 5 more. But 5 is a manageable number. I can hold it in one hand. I can write it one on each finger. Do whatever it takes to simplify the process and just make it work. Then we can come back and make it work right. Then we can come back and make it work fast. Just simplify.
That's right. That's great. And I mean, my dad used to tell me all the time, a little more direct, but keep it simple because you're stupid. He always had that in there at the end, but he was right. And so at the end of the day, it's better to dial in on something that's super, super simple. Just like we said, buckle down, figure out a way. You got into business for yourself because you thought you were creative. You thought you had an idea. I know you've persevered through a bunch of stuff. I know you figured out how to pay for this when you had no idea what was going to happen. I know you because I've been there. So you can make it. You will make it. There are these resources that Tom talked about today are available to you. Tom, again, thanks for stopping by. My guys, we love you. We'll talk to you soon. And we will, everybody stay safe. Severe weather's coming tonight, allegedly. So stay weather aware. But in the meantime, we love you. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, Tom. Have a good one, guys.
You bet. See you, buddy.